Okay, so let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today on a question that is, it's really simple to state.
Deceptively simple.
Yeah, but it's utterly disruptive to actually implement.
Mhm.
What if the biggest thing holding you back, whether you're leading a global mission, a corporation, a small team, what if it isn't your strategy
Or your funding.
or your funding or even your raw skill?
Yeah.
What if the greatest limiter is something you can't even put on a balance sheet? The depth of trust people have in you.
It's the great overlooked variable, isn't it? We are all trained professionally to optimize
Of
systems.
course.
But the sources we've gathered today, they argue that, collaboration, leadership, mission, they do not move at the speed of competence.
They move at the speed of trust.
Fundamentally, yes.
At the speed of trust.
That exact phrase, mission moves the speed of trust, is the absolute center of what we're looking at. We're investigating this framework designed to measure it. It's called the Relational Depth Quotient, RDQ.
Right. And what RDQ does is it takes all that work we tend to dismiss as the soft stuff, the fuzzy stuff.
Exactly. Relationships, vulnerability, just being present. And it reframes it completely. It says this relational capacity is actually the decisive factor in whether your influence lasts.
So it helps you spot patterns.
It helps you see patterns that reveal whether your work is, built to multiply for generations or if it's just designed to survive for a few years and then quietly fracture.
And the reason we're calling it a quotient, I think, is because we have to stop seeing trust as this nice-to-have accessory.
Yes.
We have to treat it as the core infrastructure. Trust is the hidden currency of any significant endeavor.
Exactly. I mean, think of it this way. Technical excellence without relational depth, that creates suspicion, not confidence.
Huh. Say more about that.
Well, if you build a flawless system but people don't trust your intentions, they're just going to assume the system is designed to control them or exploit them.
Okay, right. But where trust runs deep.
That's when everything changes. Cultural differences become assets. Collaboration gets resilient. And your whole endeavor just takes on this durable life of its own.
So let's start with this paradox that we all live in, the clash between efficiency and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
In the professional world, we are just hardwired to prioritize efficiency. We get rewarded for airtight plans, for strict timelines, for maximizing metrics. It feels responsible.
It absolutely feels responsible. It's measurable. Accountability is easy to track.
Oh.
But, and this is the critical point, the sources all highlight, time and again, the most brilliantly designed initiatives, they stall out or they fail.
And it's because the relational environment was just too thin.
It was too thin. The relationships were functional, polite emails, clean handshakes, but they were never formative. There was no depth where real loyalty or influence could be transferred.
So relational depth isn't just a bonus that makes meetings nicer.
Not at all.
It's a strategic advantage. Pure and simple. If trust is scarce, even a brilliant vision, it just appreciates in value overnight.
It can't take root. You can have a fantastic strategy, but if the relationship infrastructure isn't there to hold it, it's like planting in sand.
And on the flip side, where trust is abundant, progress just. It accelerates beyond what any system alone could ever achieve.
Which gives us a crucial tool for misdiagnosis. If you've ever been in a meeting where a partnership just feels stuck,
We've all been there.
right, or your carefully crafted feedback just doesn't land, or a minor conflict suddenly escalates into this massive rupture,
You're saying that's probably not a competency gap.
it's almost certainly a relational depth issue. Everyone was skilled, they just weren't relationally connected.
Which brings us to the quiet collapse story. This is really the heart of why we need a framework like RDQ.
It is.
So picture a globally engaged organization. By every external measure, it looked robust. It had clean financial audits, a sophisticated strategy deck.
Glowing annual reports, donor confidence was sky high.
But underneath all that, a structural weakness had been forming for years.
Decisions were made remotely, right? And they were justified by urgency and efficiency. Local leaders felt consistently unheard.
Their concerns were treated as, like minor barriers to overcome.
Exactly. Not as fundamental insights to integrate.
They had feedback loops on paper, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Quarterly calls, annual surveys.
Oh, they checked all the boxes. But in practice, trust had totally eroded. So the moment that inevitable conflict finally surfaced, maybe over a budget allocation, a programming change,
There was no relational capital left in the bank.
nothing. It unraveled almost overnight. And not because of some big public scandal.
No.
It was because the foundational structure was brittle. Its failure wasn't a lack of vision or strategy or funding.
It was a failure of relationship.
Yeah.
The RDQ was at 0, and the whole thing just broke under pressure.
That story, it really brings us to a crucial conceptual shift. If we accept this idea that relational depth is infrastructure, not an accessory, we have to look at how modern leadership got so distracted. The sources talk about the late modern contradiction. What is that? It's how modern leadership, even in fields like mission and nonprofits, just sort of unconsciously absorbed corporate assumptions.
Like speed equals virtue.
Speed equals virtue. Scalability is the mandatory goal. Efficiency becomes a moral good in itself. And this creates a really dangerous operational split.
So on one hand, you might preach these beautiful orthodox values about loving people, honoring dignity,
Or that's your stated theology.
their mission statement.
Right. But operationally, when you're building the annual plan, relationships suddenly become expendable under pressure. People are functionally treated as instruments of the mission, not the mission itself.
Precisely.
But hold on, I have to push back a little here. Don't you need some level of corporate assumption? I mean, we live in a world with budgets and deadlines.
Of course.
If we slow down completely just for relationships, don't we risk missing critical windows of opportunity? Especially in a crisis. How do the sources handle that tension between trust and urgency? That's a critical question. And the material doesn't say abandon systems. It says systems only move resources effectively when trust is already there.
Yeah.
If you prioritize speed over trust in a crisis, sure, you might solve the immediate problem. But you burn the long-term capacity of your partners. You win the quarter, but you lose the generation.
So the illusion is thinking relationships are the soft part and systems are the strong part.
The sources argue the complete opposite. Systems move resources, strategies, mobilize people.
But relationships carry weight.
Relationships carry the weight, exactly. Trust is the unseen framework. When relational depth is thin, even a minor disagreement gets interpreted as a personal attack.
And a new vision feels like manipulation.
Because the people receiving it don't trust the motives behind it.
But if that RD is strong, you can absorb that shock.
You can. Hard truth can be spoken without fear of reprisal. Conflict becomes an invitation to repair, not a guaranteed rupture. Disagreement is just. It's a data point, not a breaking point.
And the ultimate blueprint for this, you'd argue, is the incarnation itself.
I mean, look at it. The incarnation, the divine becoming human. It reveals God chose proximity, vulnerability, and embodiment over abstraction or, efficiency.
God didn't email a global strategy deck from heaven.
He showed up, shared meals, bore misunderstanding. He built trust by entering into human vulnerability.
Proximity precedes productivity.
That's the key. That's why Mark 3.14 is so fundamental. Jesus called the disciples that they might be with him, that came before he commissioned them to preach or heal. The sequence is formative. Authority flows from intimacy, from shared life, not from a memo.
And this is where it gets really interesting for anyone who, runs a calendar. Jesus' deliberate refusal of strategic shortcuts.
Right.
If relationship is the goal, why not pick 12 scholars who are already theologically aligned? Why fishermen with tempers and, tax collectors?
He was modeling what we could call the strategic inefficiency of God. He entrusted the future to imperfect, messy people, not to airtight systems or guaranteed plans.
So the slowness isn't a bug, it's a feature.
The slowness is intentional. It's formative. It's prophetic. It resists that tyranny of urgency that pushes us to bypass true understanding and ultimately to dehumanize people.
And we see this played out in the pace of his life, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
He often seems to miss deadlines on purpose.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Think about the simple act of eating. Meals weren't just a social courtesy for him. They were profound theological acts.
Like in Luke 7.
Exactly, Luke 7. He's eating with a Pharisee, and a woman marked by scandal interrupts the whole dinner to anoint his feet.
He stops everything.
He stops the entire event. He allows the interruption to prioritize forgiveness and relational restoration over the strict efficiency or the social expectations of the host. Formation simply cannot be rushed.
That resonates so much for any contemporary leader because our calendars are just constantly being shaped by interruptions.
Yes.
The Samaritan woman at the well in John 4 is a perfect example. It's an unscheduled, culturally complex encounter that interrupts a journey.
And he treated that moment not as an obstacle to his planned agenda, but as a divine appointment.
For trust building.
For trust building, relational depth cannot be scheduled neatly into a 30-minute block. It just can't.
So leaders who consistently prioritize the clock and the deadline over just being present.
They end up trading long-term endurance, that generational impact, for short-term, unsustainable output.
So the paradox remains. Slowing down relationally, choosing presence, investing in trust. That is precisely what allows the mission to go farther,
Yes.
geographically and generationally.
The collapse always happens when strategy and efficiency have outrun the relational infrastructure. Always. So now we have to shift to the advanced RDQ, navigating the really tough real-world dynamics, power, culture, and conflict.
Right.
We define relational depth quotient as the capacity to build trust that can withstand difference. But let's add to that. It also has to withstand conflict, time, and most crucially, power imbalance.
That power imbalance is the silent killer of trust, isn't it? Especially in global work.
It is, whether it's financial disparity, educational gaps, mobility. The fragility of asymmetry is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Absolutely. Unexamined privilege, especially among well-funded or highly educated teams, it unintentionally erodes trust just by dominating conversations.
Can you give an example of that?
Think about the standard Zoom call. The international team arrives with a preset agenda dictated by their operational calendar, and the local community is just expected to provide input on the items listed.
So what the remote team sees as professional efficiency, sticking to the bullet points.
The local community often experiences that as imposition. It subtly reduces their leaders to mere recipients, not co-creators of the solution. Their local wisdom gets overshadowed by the sheer volume and speed of the external agenda.
Okay, so what's the antidote?
The countercultural practice is the posture of the guest. Leaders have to approach communities as humble guests, not as saviors or hosts who control the room.
So that requires intentional humility.
It does. It requires allowing the hosted community to set the pace, to teach you, and choosing sustained presence over these pre-designed programs.
It's about building trust from the inside out, like when Paul talks about becoming all things to all people.
That's the relational mechanism right there. It's not about blending in culturally. It's about deferring relational authority to build capacity and demonstrate genuine mutuality.
And finally, we have to talk about conflict. It's unavoidable.
And most leaders see it as evidence of relational failure, but avoiding conflict is the real failure.
Because it just lets mistrust fester.
It guarantees a later, more dramatic fracture.
So conflict, when you approach it with this kind of wisdom, with a strong RDQ, it can actually accelerate trust.
It tests and therefore proves the durability of the relational infrastructure you've built. The key is to shift your focus from winning to repair.
And true repair is costly.
It's costly and it's covenantal. It demands truth-telling and love, full, unambiguous acknowledgement of harm, and a mutual commitment to restoration. It's a process that honors justice alongside forgiveness.
And that costly resilience, the ability to go into conflict and come out stronger?
That is what separates transactional work from an enduring partnership.
So bringing this all home, what does this mean for you, our listener, this week? We've seen that the relational depth quotient isn't just a theory.
Yeah.
It is the spiritual infrastructure and the true currency of any enduring endeavor. Mission that survives and multiplies. It's not built on the systems we accomplish.
It's built on who we become together in those relationships.
The distinction is really decisive, and it deserves some reflection. Transactional leadership asks, what can we achieve this quarter? What are the measurable outputs?
Whereas relational leadership asks, who are we becoming together in covenantal love and trust? Is our relationship deeper today than it was last year?
The cautionary tales are so clear. Strategy is cheap, but deep trust is priceless. The kingdom does not advance by speed or status or raw statistics.
It advances at the speed of trust in the patient, often inefficient work of relationship.
So your challenge for this week is tactical. Identify one area. It could be your next performance review, a critical partnership meeting, a major strategic decision.
It's just one area. And in that one area, identify one specific moment where patience, deep listening, and relational care will take absolute precedence over efficiency.
Slow down. Become the guest. Listen deeper than is comfortable.
And just see how much farther that choice actually allows you to go in the long run.